All right, we are live. Good morning, everyone. This is episode 165 of OotiniCast. Our guest today is Bill. This is just the pre-intro. We'll have a very short pre-show, and then we'll start rolling. You have to pick a winner for our tip of the week. And if you're expecting a prize from last week, I found them today in my unclaimed items, in the cash shop. On one of my characters. So it turned out I hadn't actually claimed them, so it'll be another 1.5 days before I can actually send them. I couldn't find out which character they were on, and I finally did. The winner is number 3.
Okay.
Infidel. Okay, chill.
Did you want to read some of those, Gio?
I did. Let me just reorg them a little bit. Let me see. No, that'll work. I will do that one and Sabs. Yep, that's perfect, I think.
All right.
Let me just make sure he's got his English right. Oh, that's a good idea. Well, sort of. In fact, that...
Did you see the link I just put up at the top of the document?
Let's see. I did see that article, actually.
Okay. The greatest irony being that Elder Scrolls Online is not on the list, but Skyrim is.
Of the people who use Raptor. So
yes, of course.
I don't know if it's a fair sample.
It's actually inspirational enough for me. I'm thinking about installing it just to add my own data points to it.
Yeah, no real surprises there. Though I did notice the article mentioned that, well, WildStar had been there, but now ain't in the top 20 at all.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, even if it's a good representative sample, anything new will... It's like at least a few new games come out every month that are going to be in the top 20 list because everybody's buying it and trying it.
I assume Arcade, for example, should be there right now, at least for a while. Another game I'm ignoring. Just tweeting that we're live.
Seriously, please tell me I'm not the only one that thinks that, like, fantasy is as old as the genre, and maybe we should just move into the future? Like a little bit more sci-fi?
I like fantasy, I'll be honest, but...
I'm so burnt out on it. I'll come back to it eventually, but man, I'm tired of it right now.
I think I just have high standards when it comes to fantasy.
That might be it too. Like, maybe I'm just waiting for someone to meet my standards so I can return to the genre.
Alright. Now, as far as spoilers go, let me be clear that since they released the teaser, 20 seconds of teaser, Revan being it is something we can talk about. I think it'd be silly to hide it at this point. So, but as far as what the events leading up to it with Forged Alliances, what I'm actually thinking is we will do a spoiler cast at some point between now and 3.0. So not short term, in which we actually go through the whole Revan storyline and end with what happens in Forged Alliances, and then maybe we can make some predictions.
Will that include for KOTOR content?
Well,
I'm back.
Sort of. Hello, Jill. Again.
Or maybe
And
the
apparently
novel.
wanted my password again for some reason.
Okay.
So it said, "You don't get to come in." No, sir.
Keep going, Red.
I was just curious. Like, the novel I read, and of course I know most of the back history of Revan, but not that much. I feel like because the novel ties directly into the Jedi Knight story, and then you do have the 2 flashpoints, and then the companion for the Jedi Knight himself actually comes straight out of the novel and ties directly to Revan.
Yep. Yeah, so it would be all of that. So this is just Revan beginning to where we know. So I'm going to take that on as a project since I have all the time in the world, more or less, and we'll plan that for sometime soon. I assume, Red, you'd be interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I have KOTOR on my Steam account, and I might need to pull it out and play it through.
Yeah, I got to play through the rest of KOTOR 2. I got stuck again. Well, I sort of wandered off. All right, enough mucking about. Let me see. News is all news, but you know.
Did you tweet?
I did.
I will retweet, and then I'm ready.
And talk about that. Blah blah blah. Yeah, I think we got. Now, what about the Silent Digest? You've got your notes. Now,
Yeah.
Bill,
It shouldn't be
were
that
gonna-
long.
Okay. Bill, we did do that email, but I think if you're willing to come back in a future show, we'll cover that email then rather than doing it in this show.
Okay.
So keep your notes if you have made any, and we'll do it then. All right, fine. That makes it easy. All right, Jill, when you're ready, everyone recording?
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yes, I am.
Bill
Yes.
and Red.
No. And actually, as a question, real quick, as I'm loading this, are we going to address the minor issue at all?
No.
Okay.
No. We are not going to say a fucking word about it. It didn't happen, as far as I'm concerned. It's just not our problem. And
It's just I've got Steve in my chat room was asking what our opinions of it were.
Hi, Google Plus. May I just say,
Are you guys lagging?
yes, that's not just me.
Not just me.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
I thought it might just be me, so.
Yeah.
It's all of us, evidently.
I'm the one with the crap internet, remember, here in Australia. It involves koalas. It's not good. All right, so backup plan. If this goes to shit, I will create a new Hangout. We'll try again. If it fails again, we will just back up and use Skype, I guess. So I'll coordinate via email and let you all know. So keep an eye
Right.
on that.
We'll just keep Audacity rolling no matter what.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, Chill. I'm ready to go.
All right.
You are now recording, Red?
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. Going in 5. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast. Since we're a small operation, we don't fall under the jurisdiction of the Empire. This is episode 165, being recorded on Wednesday, September 17th, 2014. I'm your host, Chill, and with me is my co-host, Tio. Hi, Tio.
Hey, guys.
And with us today are Bill and Red. So, Bill, what you been doing, and has it been making you money?
Not as much as I used to, I guess. I've been too busy with this conquest stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice last week, I have to say. Competition was down a little bit last week, it felt like. I didn't
Seems
feel
like.
like I needed to burn the candle at all 16 ends.
Mm-hmm.
I now have 16 characters fully functional and running, so it was nice to actually have a little bit of a break last week. I didn't feel like I am conquesting on both sides of the world, and both Imp and Pub, and it's a lot. I've got my housing maxed out at 100% now. I've actually started to clean up a little bit. Those that have been around have seen my house was a mess. So I started to clean it up, declutter, actually put some effort into it. I don't know why, but I got tired of looking at it. It was a lighter week. So the week before, I total across all my characters, I'd broken 1,000,000 points. This last week, I think it was more like 350 or 400,000. So this week, I'm really taking it light, and that's nice as well. So I would say congratulations to BioWare on officially making me feel like I have a problem. I never really felt that way, even though I've added up all the time spent in the game, and it's more than I spend on anything else in my life, which is sad. But it is now literally after the past couple weeks hitting me of I've got a serious problem of too much time in game. So this
Wow.
week's a nice reprieve for me.
All right. That is actually healthy, so I'm glad to hear that. All right. Red, how about your week?
I've been doing operations and operations and more operations. I've
Right.
been gearing up my gunslinger, which means I need lots of ultimate comms, which means I'm character hopping and doing daily operations over and over and over again.
Right, and this is also stuff to put in your stronghold and also for achievements, correct?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Well, some of the achievements, yeah, I actually realized I've only at like 35% achievements completed, and that's primarily because a lot of them, I've only done it 16 man on one mode, and not hard, 8 man on the
Right.
other or whatever. And then there's a
Yeah.
lot of old ones. So I think
Spotty.
I only
Hmm.
need one more mode on EV, and I will be at 100%. It's either EV or KP. But then on the flip side, the other one I've only done it like twice on two different ones. I mean, so I've got a
Right.
whole
Or you basically always did it 8-man hard or whatever.
or nightmare, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I have got to say, with all the decorations dropping and then the conquest incentives and everything else, it makes doing all of this old content for me so easy. It's and I know they're just decorations, and I know I said I didn't care about playing house, but it is a piece of candy for me to pick up at the end of the operation that I'm looking forward to. I've got what 4 statues in my stronghold now. It's great. From
Very nice.
other than that, I am definitely at the point where calm turn-ins really aren't getting me anything, so I need to start progressing, at least in hard modes, and probably very soon in nightmare mode content. But this means that I need to get guildies to let me into their groups, so that's the next project.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, it has been pretty much the entire time on my tank and my gunslinger and I meant to get into the Marauder with the changes. I never got on that character because I've been grinding on server for ultimate comms and doing legacy transfers, and I've actually even been using all the extra elite comms that I don't need anymore to start gearing out my shadow tank. Because I know shadows are supposedly better suited for tanking now than guardians, at least
Hmm.
at this stage. So, and I like my shadow better actually. As I mentioned before, I kind of over macroed my guardian, and I don't like that I don't legitimately know how to play that character.
Right. Yeah. Early on, I switched from Trooper to Shadow just because I was frustrated with some Trooper things at the time. But that was a long time ago. I don't think I could switch. I mean, it would be very painful just for me to switch at this point. So.
Well, unfortunately, Jang, who's been a guest on the show before, he has decided that he very much wants to do operations as well, and as such, he's committed to being the tank because he knows that's going to be the easiest spot to step in and fill, and so that's who I've been running with the entire time. If we're in story mode ops, I'm the second tank, but if we're doing hard mode flashpoints for the dailies or anything like that, I'm letting him tank, I'm on my gunslinger, and I believe he's almost done with his gear as well, so
Nice.
I only got the conquest goal on one character since it was such a PvP focus this week. And in point of fact, it was my gunslinger, and that was primarily because at the end of the week I wanted to get it at least one character, and so I did a whole bunch of PvP on him. I've really enjoyed the Saboteur changes. Just still
Yeah.
really, really loving it. And I did switch to Sharpshooter at one point. I started doing breakdown of all the fights for Dread Palace and Dread Fortress and realizing I can think of cases for all 3 trees
Hmm.
to know all 3 trees really, really well, so that every single boss fight I can just spec into whatever I think is going to be best for that fight and play with it.
Cool.
Beyond that, let's see, I've gotten 19 different crystals for my stronghold, 7 different antiques types. No, sorry about that. That would be, yeah, 7. 2, 4, 6, 7 different antique plants, 6 or antiques, 6 different plants, only two for scavenging, which is a little bit ironic, seeing as scavenging is the profession I definitely use the most for all of this material. But I guess at the end of the day, RNG is still really happy for me. Like I said last week, I ended up getting 5 solo and 5 guild rewards, and yet last week for that one character, when I got my little package that I opened for decorations, every single one of them was 1 out of 50 picking it up. They were all unique new ones for me to play. So cool. It was really neat. which
All
also
right.
means I'm filling up with a lot more unique ones from those rewards pretty quickly, and I'm happy for that. My one pro tip, though, since with the conquest changes, the advantages for the items that you make for conquest, but also all of the currency type items that you use to get off of the vendors, reputation vendors, fleet vendors, wherever you find the vendors, or even within your own strongholds. Lower level materials really are worth it now, which is why if you're doing anything in lower areas, or for whatever reason you're around things dying, if you're a scavenger, make sure you're scanning all of them. If you're plant, whatever, scan your stuff. But the other thing is loot. Even if you're getting low level loot, reverse engineer everything that you can, because all of those mats can now be used towards these new conquest contributions, and I found it to be very beneficial.
Very nice.
Otherwise, I did make a connection this week that I'm really excited about, and we will be tentatively, pretty sure, Tuesday the 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern. I have met Dave Dorman of Star Wars fame. One of the easier images for you to identify, he actually painted the cover for the Emperor's Return comic book series when the clone Emperor came back. He did the artwork for that. 96, he got the award for greatest Star Wars artist of all time. He's a really cool guy, and he's actually done a lot of comic book art. He's done a ton of the Star Wars novel covers and things. George Lucas has purchased a number of his items personally. He's quite well known. Also done work for Aliens and Predator and Marvel Comics and a bunch of other stuff. So I'll be doing an interview with him and gotten permission to do a live stream on my Twitch channel.
Very cool.
So that hopefully if we can get people to show up, they can ask questions and we can have a good evening of it. And then at the end of that, I will be submitting everything to Tio, and we will publish that as an extra interview podcast as well.
That sounds awesome. All right. Excellent. Tio, how about your week?
Let's talk about rating for starters. Firstly, on day one, we decided, because we were pushing for conquest points, to do Scum and Villainy via the Group Finder, because you got points for both completing Scum and Villainy and also completing an operation via the Group Finder. So we did that. We just blew through it. Of course, it was easy enough with our regular raid group. Then on day two, I was back to what we call progression. We did Nightmare Nephra to start, and then we actually cleared all the way up to Corruptor Zero and including Corruptor Zero. For the first time, we hadn't actually looked at the fight in, it must be a 2 or a couple of months or so. It was a while.
Mm-hmm.
We did finally get him down with 10 minutes to spare, and it was by the skin of our teeth. I was the only one left alive of my Sentinel, and I had about 3,000
health left.
And that was it. Yeah,
that was amazing. But you and Joe were the last two standing, and you both did a marvelous job of both handling aggro, given that neither of you had taunts, and he used his force bubble at just the right time. You know, the boss turned on you, whittled you down. Then he turned the bubble off. He started healing you, and then the boss turned on him. And he healed himself. You know, so then he went down, but you were more or less full of health. And then the boss turned on you because you're the last guy standing. And it was amazing. It was well done. and he had been like aggroed, or what's it called? Enraged for a little while at that point.
Oh, had he?
Had he not? Noticed. I believe he had towards the end.
No wonder it was. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. I had been dead for 5 minutes.
Yeah, we're sorry we had to draw that out, Bill. But we were trying a different strategy rather than being up one end near the entrance. We were staying around the middle because that's just a cleaner strategy all up. People were staying away from the boss, except for the tanks and the melee when we weren't taking care of ads, and it worked out pretty well, actually. We were getting used to it, which is probably why we nearly wiped, but I suspect next time we'll get through it a lot more cleanly. It just means people had to pay attention to when they got the grenade, but that was all happening, so it was all good. I think we're getting a little better at coordinating, so hopefully this week we'll clear up to Corruptor Zero again, and then have a few good goes at the end boss, which is Raptus.
Brontus.
No, Brontos, which is Brontos. Yeah, so we'll see how we go with that. Other than that, in my own week, we were focused on the Conquest. And as Bill mentioned, it was like we stayed roughly at the same position on the leaderboard pretty much all week. As I mentioned last week, we invaded Nar Shaddaa, mainly because it had the heroics available to us, all 8 of them. My own contribution was doing those heroics on several characters multiple times. Yeah, I am so sick of those heroics. Just, it's not like they're hard or anything, but there is a certain amount of time involved in moving from place to place. And so I certainly learned how to do them efficiently, but again, there was only so much you could do. We were hanging around 6th place. We ended up in a comfortable 5th. On the leaderboard for Nar Shaddaa.
Right. Not by the skin of our teeth this time.
Not even a little bit, and there was nearly 1 million points between us and 10th place. Now, just some big contributors from this week. It was pretty much the same guys as last week, actually. Dread, over 323,000 on 4 characters. Labyrinthe, 8 characters over the 35k personal conquest goal. 8. Got nearly 300,000. Chong and myself around 220,000 on 5 characters. Most of that was from the dailies, as I mentioned for myself, but during Fight Club on Saturday evening US time, I did indulge in PvP. I know I said I wouldn't, but I did.
Was it fun?
It was. Admittedly, 2 or 3 glasses of wine may have helped that. So drunk PvP is a thing that, yeah, I discovered that my tension and stress levels with doing PvP are mitigated nicely with alcohol. So this is not drinking to excess, but just enough to take the edge off, so to speak.
Very nice.
Yes.
Lets you forget how many times you've actually lost in a row.
Believe it or not, we were winning pretty much most of the time. So
very nice.
There's 4 of us. It was Chong, myself, Ari, and Kuze for the most part, and Pez joined us as well. And yeah, we were just kicking ass. It was good. Let's see. And Bill, Karen, and Grace, you guys all did really well as well, of course. So thank you all. This week, the choices were kind of thin on the ground in terms of building up points. There are 4 planets to invade. No heroics available that contributed points on any planet. So what we decided to do was have the week off, basically. So we invaded Hoth, which was the best chance for people to gain points just by doing their normal stuff, flashpoints, Galactic Starfighter, war zones, everything. We assumed it would be fairly heavily contested, and it was indeed, or is indeed. We're nowhere near being on the leaderboard, which it's a bit hard, but I think everyone welcomes the week off. So next week, hopefully, we will have some opportunities to compete once again. But yeah, it's good to have a break. The guild ship did finally open up the crew quad on the crew deck.
Cool.
So that gave us another 70 hooks or so people can decorate. It's taking us a long time because we're just really using encryptions mainly from the guild rewards from all the people who get over. We did actually on the off day on Monday US time. We did take down a couple of commanders on Hoth, just change phases to do that. That was easy enough. We should do a lot more of that commander farming. So that's the easiest way to get encryptions, because if you take down the commander, if it's an unnamed, and these were unnamed, everyone in the group will get an encryption. It'll just be a random one of the 3. And if it's a named commander, you are guaranteed 1 framework, and the rest will get encryptions, I believe. Up to 12 people can be on your raid, and everyone will get the reward.
Nice.
Yeah, and a framework is worth 50 encryptions, so... Nice.
That is nice. Now, the guild message has suggested that people choose a particular one for their guild reward the last couple of
Yes.
weeks.
The
Is there a
logistical
reason why that
piece.
one's harder to get?
No, it just depends on which deck of the capital ship you want to unlock.
That you're going
Logistical is for the crew deck. Engineering is for the engine room, etc. And the other one is a command encryptions. Therefore, like the command deck,
That's right.
something like that. Yeah, that's why I'm
Okay.
focusing on logistical, so we can just fully open up the crew deck, which
Okay.
seemed to be the sort of cheapest, relatively speaking. Just a comment from our guildmate Force Chuckle at Force Chuckle on Twitter. He mentioned that we just unlocked the front end of the crew deck. Feels pretty damn good. The interior reminds him a bit of the Endar Spire, the ship from KOTOR. It's kind of cool.
That is cool.
And also appears in SWTOR, of course, as a crashed ship
Right,
on
is it?
Taris.
Oh,
Anyway, that's pretty... Oh, I also contributed to the Jawa Joyride yesterday. I kind of talked the guys into doing Dread Palace for the conquest points, but we only got through the first 4 or 5 bosses. We couldn't quite get the last boss down. We just ran out of time, more or less. Only had a couple of solid attempts. So yeah, they were going to do Explosive Conflict for the decos, so maybe that's what they'll do next week. Anyway, that's my week. Over to you,
all
Chip.
right. First, a shout out to the chat room. Beware 2 is here. Caligari, Force Chuckle, Carmen, Lawel C01, Noma, Karanome, and Karanome 2. Not sure what the deal is, but that's kind of funny. Gas Guy's here. Giant Gina, HK_Chubs, Mib _2ZMLHY, and Nephin, and thank you all for coming. All right. And, well, I got my Sentinel through Balmora. Quesh will be up next. Lots of space missions this week. I don't know, I was feeling it, and they're still pretty good experience even at the mid-30s or early 30s, and did a fair bit of PvP as well. And yesterday I did the Rakata Prime Flashpoint. I really liked it. I did it on the Republic side. I guess I'll have to do that at some point too. And yeah, no spoilers, but it is very beautiful, just like you were talking about. And I think for me the most interesting thing this week was I installed a graphics card because my current one, my old one, was not good. So now I have an EVGA GeForce GTX 750 Ti graphics card put in there, and so I have the game at the highest settings. It's 60 frames per second in most places. Not on the fleet for whatever reason. It doesn't like to do full frames on the fleet because there's too much new information always coming in or something. And that helped make the new Flashpoint look great. The space missions, which have always been beautiful, are even better. And yeah, it's really sweet. So I'm really enjoying that a lot. Let's see what else. I also watched and enjoyed the latest Kranitoko pack opening video on YouTube, so I suggest everyone check that out. It's always fun to, well, first of all, I do enjoy his openers, but even if you just want to watch him open the packs, it's strangely satisfying watching him do that and show you what everything is and see what he gets and doesn't get and gets multiples of all that stuff. So I highly recommend those. And yeah, so pretty basic though. It was a lot of fun, and I'm really liking the game even more on its new things. So
you're gonna need to go back and revisit so much of the old content now. There are still places that I come across, like I kill something that's got kind of a beetle carapace, and all of a sudden I stop and I'm just staring at the thing because I realize it's got this reflective matte shell, and I'm like, oh wow, that looks really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing how many more things are shiny in the game now.
Yeah, no, it's true, and that those shines like rotate by the position that the sky is in orientation to its body and stuff. Yeah, it's really really neat. So congratulations! I'm really happy to hear you got the upgrade.
Yeah, it was really fun. I was a little nervous putting it in. I haven't really installed new hardware in a computer for like over 10 years. So we spend a little bit more on a computer that's kind of like pretty up to the standards of the time, and then we just ride it until it's way past its prime. And that's how we save money, is put a little more up front and then it lets it last a little longer. But in this case, the graphics card really wasn't up to snuff. It wasn't up to the standards of the rest of the computer. It was on board and all that junk. So yeah, so new card. It was really fun actually to put it in. It was relatively simple. Thank you, Tio, for the technical advice beforehand, and yeah, and it worked out really well. So, all right, and that will bring us to the tip of the week, and we have 4 of them this time. First one's from Arneil. Hey guys, listen to your podcast. Had quite a laugh about the crit stacking jug. Yes, while gear won't be helping relics and adrenals, to boost that will reduce the reverse engineering cast time, which is helpful for getting augment kit components. Yes, indeed it is.
Nice. Yeah.
And in addition to those, of course, if you have a class that has an alacrity boost, you can use that as well. So, yep.
All right. Our second tip is from Sab, our guildmate Sab. Handy tip for keeping track of your different crew skills of your characters and if they are the same faction. Add the characters to the friends list and then edit the note for each character to what your professions are. You can also go one step further and add if it's light or dark. If you have a mix of cross-faction characters for crafting, you can do the same as above and take a screenshot of each faction to keep as a record. Another easy way is to use either a pen and paper to write everything down or use a Word document on the computer to keep it all. Makes finding out what crew skills you have a lot easier. Or a spreadsheet, of course.
Makes sense. Yep,
Very nice.
good old Google Doc of some sort.
Yep.
Does it all work? That's excellent. All right, third tip from Infidel, Guildmaster of Pax Imperius on the Ebon Hawk. If your guild has a guild ship, officers, or anyone who can withdraw from the guild bank can summon members to their exact location. So, if there's a hard-to-reach datacron, for example the +10 on Makeb, one person can get there and then summon the rest of the operations group, and voila, no platforming. Small disclaimer, it is 20,000 credits per summon.
Indeed, and PJ was doing exactly that for the Utini Nights this week. So thank you, PJ, for doing all the platforming to get there and then bringing in people to just get the datacron.
Has anybody tested
down
to
when
see
that
if you can
happens.
do? Has anybody tested to see if you can do that on the fleet yet? For the +10.
Oh, to summon them there?
That's
Yeah.
a good question, though.
The plus
Is
10
it-
all? Yeah, I don't know.
You can't summon into a phase.
I think it is phased at one point. Yeah.
Yeah. So probably not.
Or even even in the part before the actual video, like the end hook,
Well, it's
basically.
elevators.
I think even that is phased.
I'm just trying to
There's
think. if there's a
elevators
phase.
and then energy doors and then the energy bridge, but I don't think there's
Maybe
any.
no phase.
Maybe
Well,
not
I mean,
phased.
at least at the
Okay, I
point-
could be wrong.
At the point where you're pulling everybody up to, because you do
Yeah.
go into a phase after that. I
Sure.
think.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could try that. It could be tried. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
And our last tip is from our guildmate Caligari. Here's a tip for gathering up piles of mats when you're out questing with your companion. If you're inundated with too many mats to gather while questing with your companion, like piles and piles of decommissioned droids or dead fauna, remember that you can gather mats yourself too while your companion is also gathering up the scraps. All you need to do is right-click on something to scavenge with your companion, and then shift right-click on another pile to gather those mats yourself. You'll have to dismiss a loot dialog box, but it's still quicker to split up the work this way rather than making poor old Trig do all the work. Now, I've set this up. I must be using AutoLoot or something because I've been doing exactly that. I gather some.
Okay, you're back.
Hey, we're back.
It was just me, or was it everyone?
That
It was everyone. I was.
Yeah, it's all
I was
like
actually
that.
talking to my chat room because nothing happened for so long.
All right. Yeah, in case you're wondering, Google Hangouts is glitching like hell for us. So I'm sure the video will be a mess, but hopefully the
The audio should
recording will be a lot cleaner.
Yep. All right, so there's 4 tips, and by random allotment, the winner is Infidel. So congratulations, Infidel. You're the winner of an M8R3 code, courtesy of BioWare, and an OotiniCast provided Cartel Market Pack from the latest shipment. And if you'd like a chance to win the same, please send your tips to OotiniCast@gmail.com by next Wednesday. That will bring us to the holofeed. Tio?
All right. Well, let's start with something fairly simple. Preferred access to Galactic Strongholds. All preferred players. And to be preferred, all you have to do is have spent at least $5 in the cash shop or have been subscribed at any point in the past. Preferred players now have access, so they can get themselves Galactic Strongholds. The way they did it was over a large number of hours, so it seems like they were updating the database and flipping some kind of flag on every single player who was now preferred.
Oh, wow.
Which is an odd way of doing it, but whatever.
So wait, it wasn't on a server reset? They actually individually just rolled it out?
It seems that way, yeah. And they did it live. They didn't shut anything down. So
Interesting.
an odd choice, but fair enough.
Well, this will be really nice. I don't know if you guys had thought about the ramifications of long-term atrophy for conquests and whether or not these huge scoreboards would persist, but now we've got all the preferred can boost their bonuses, which can, inflate what it looks like the activity actually is even further.
Maybe. I'm thinking this conquest will last as long as there's stuff to expand on the flagships, and after that...
I think that you will still see persist until they can all get their number 1 on every planet and then the title Galactic Dude. And then once you've got that and your full ship unlocked,
maybe
that's probably when... But there's always going to be new people in the guild and stuff that want to keep trying. And what are those perks? Are there perks to holding the planet that are worth it? That's only for top 10 though, isn't it?
Apparently they only last for a week though, and it's only the Conqueror. Not in the top 10, you have to have actually won.
Now, is that true? It only lasts a week, or does it only last until you get the Conqueror of a second planet that you can't hold more than 1?
No, apparently... Well, no, that wasn't confirmed. I don't know.
Because that makes sense to me. Like, I know we all thought you could hold more than 1 planet, but if you're in the top 10 week to week to week, then you're just going to keep transferring which planet you're a Conqueror of. If you were 10 last week and you're not on the board this week, are you still Conqueror of the previous? That's the real question, because then at least you still have a planet where you get a bonus.
It's a shame that BioWare never did do an explanatory post explaining, laying it all out how it works. We've all kind of had to figure this out as we go along. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
All right. Also, we do have a new pack. Again, it was released without any downtime, using the way the system works now. It's the Constable's Stronghold pack. There's a bunch of nice stuff in it. You can preview it all as usual on dolphy.net. I'll include the link in the show notes. There's a few outfits from KOTOR 2. Krea's certainly stands out.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, these actually look pretty good, to be honest.
I like the tribal camp arrangement. Like if you're trying to make a tiki bar, you could use those for sure. It's really cool.
Yeah. And of course, you did mention already that Chronotoko did his pack opening video. So that was a particularly good intro. It did end on a cliffhanger, but yeah.
He likes to do that, yes.
Indeed.
Yep, highly recommended.
There was also a consolidation. Okay. Now, on the official forums, there was a consolidation, another one, this time of the class forums. They're collapsing all the individual class forums, such as Jedi Knight, Sith Warrior, into the class forum, and so there won't be sub-forums for each individual class, and each of the mirrored advanced classes will be together. Sentinel or Marauder will now share the same sub-forum. So it's a kind of logical amalgamation. It was kind of weird, given the mirror classes are mirrors in all ways.
Mm-hmm.
For them to have separate forums. So one issue that affects one will affect the other directly.
Right.
So one of them in the same forum.
Yeah, like around when 2.0 was coming out, and I was trying to learn about new abilities, and new talents and everything, I did find myself visiting both of them
Right.
regularly and trying to figure stuff out. Okay.
Okay.
works.
And yeah, so they were going to take the forum offline for a while, just the whole class forum, as I got it all cleaned up. So the actual stickied guides and stuff that are in there, and actually are quite good generally, such as Keyboard Ninjas, won't be available for the duration. But they're going to try and get that back available as soon as I can.
Okay.
Let's see. Expansion news. As we know, 3.0 is coming sometime towards the end of the year. Now, we had a bit of a teaser trailer released. It was announced initially that during the live stream with Eric Musco and Charles Boyd, where they played through the new Legacy of the Rakata Flashpoint, Tactical Flashpoint, which is set on Rakata Prime, they would say they were going to release a teaser right at the end of that, and they did. It was then simultaneously published on YouTube, etc. It's very, very short. A teaser in the true sense of the word, because, well, they call it A Deadly Force Returns, and the only line associated with it is, I will finish what I've started. Yeah, there's
Now,
maybe 20 seconds of footage.
Yeah, here's the real question. If you've been playing the game, can you call this a teaser? Because it literally gave us nothing new.
If you hadn't seen the end of the Legacy of the Rakata Flashpoint, you may not have guessed, or played the end of Manan, you may not know who this may be. And so we're not going to beat around the bush. It's Revan, or appears to be Revan. The actual trailer is basically him walking into somewhere, and those primitive weapons there, I think Ben B mentioned that it had been associated with the Massassi, who had been relocated to Yavin 4, so maybe this is on Yavin 4, who knows. He pulls out his lightsaber and swings it around a bit, but yeah, I was comparing the images. I took a few appropriate snapshots from the video. That was quite easy because it's very, very short and it doesn't actually show much. I compared it with some screenshots of Revan from the end of the Foundry, which in SWOTOR is pretty much the last time that we see him alive, because at the end of the Foundry he kind of disappears in a flash of something. And yeah, he's pretty much wearing the same stuff. It looks a bit more ragged in the teaser, but it looks fairly similar. The lightsaber is also pretty much exactly the same design. So whoever this is, he certainly...
The mask itself in particular is definitely a bit worse for wear, but...
And he was wearing the mask in that final fight. So, yeah, maybe it is
Yes,
Revan.
and that was something I had to have a big conversation on Twitter about, because on the pub side, when you release him, he never puts on the mask. But on the Imperial side, and by the way, the Flashpoint is at a later level and does take place later in the storyline. This is not like conflicting stories or whatever. Revan gets set free, and then Revan goes and infiltrates this location, and the Imperials respond. And then when he goes to attack and you have a fight with him, that's when he does put the mask on.
Yeah.
And then he vanishes. And there are multiple theories to what that meant. Like, I guess some people thought that that meant that he'd blown up in Dark Force explosive power, like the Emperor from the movies. Spoiler from a 1970s movie. But yeah, I had actually always just taken it as a dodge and weave. Like, he realized he was going to lose the fight, and so he just split and run and did some diversionary tactics and vanished, effectively. But there's also a lot of conversation as to, okay, all you have seen at this stage is a hologram of his face with a voice that could have been a modulation to sound like him, and then this teaser video, which all you really see is him turn around, it looks like him, and he lights his lightsaber, and it's over.
Yep.
So, of course, if they're not subtle at all, this is Revan. They make it at all complex, then this could be a lot of different other things, but we'll have to see.
Now, Turd commented on Twitter, and then expansion 4.0, Return of Nagus, and then expansion 5.0, Return of Kephis with an all-Kephis planet, flashpoints and operations. A little cynical, perhaps.
Hey, well, we got to see the Emperor go down eventually.
Yeah.
And then
of course-
really, I was just going to say 10.0 or, Infinite point oh, whenever they decide it's the last expansion ever, it will have to be that the Republic wins in order to prepare for the movies. I mean, I'm just saying.
True enough. And where is the Emperor in all this with Revan? I mean, there is a direct connection there in many ways. So if you follow the story right through to the end of the Foundry, there's something going on. So,
Well, and we should say we won't talk spoilers about the Jedi Knight story or the Warrior story or any of the others, but we will sometime in the future be doing a spoiler cast all about Revan.
indeed. So
We don't need to
cover it
spoil
there.
beyond the fact of what they've been using as publicity material, the fact that this does seem to involve Revan.
Now, on that, well, on the official forums, there was a thread that is still there, so I'm assuming it's basically okay as far as BioWare is concerned, where they looked at the website that had the trailer here on it, on the teaser trailer on it, and they noticed that some of the graphics files and stuff were called SOR teaser, SOR, and the assumption, unconfirmed, is that SOR is the acronym for the expansion.
Right.
And so everyone in the thread were contributing various ideas. I did pick some of my favorites, including, Shadow of Revan. Also saw Soul of Revan, were a couple of probably reasonable, but it got a little comical from there. Same old Revan, Stop Overreacting Revan, Sick of Revan, Surprise, OMG Revan, and Seriously Overusing Revan. So, wow. The R may not even be Revan, but yeah, it's pretty funny.
It seems like it probably will be, though.
Mm-hmm.
I
Most likely.
can't. Yeah, that's my best guess. I mean, yeah.
Well, actually, I think that Caligari got it right in the chat room. It's Shadow of Redna.
Could be.
I mean, they put the Dolphy item in, right? It's time for me.
That's very optimistic of you.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to a Revan operation boss. That would be fun.
There was some interesting chatter about that on Twitter. That some people were saying, is that really how we want Revan to end up? As a boss in an operation?
Oh, yeah. I
Same.
mean,
I
if
do.
you want to know my knee-jerk reaction to the fact that this is in some way going this direction, I actually think there's a huge risk they're taking with incorporating Revan into this, especially with the way that it looks like they're trying to set this up, which is why I'm really hoping that it's a false front. It's not genuinely him, but it could work, and sometimes you got to take a big risk to get big rewards. But if you're leading to having Revan as a boss fight, there's a lot of potential to upset a lot of diehard fans that have been following since long before this game was even out.
That's true.
And also, what about the psychological issues of the fact that you've been playing Revan and now you go kill yourself? I mean, that's got to hurt someone somewhere.
Spoiler for KOTOR.
Oh,
Anyway.
yeah.
Man,
Again, the game's been
he'll
out
just-
since the 80s.
Yeah, he'll peel off the mask and it'll be another Kephis boss.
Oh, that would be so
Let's hope
perfect.
not. Let's hope not.
Well, and
Uh,
actually in the Twitch chat room, another great idea was that you peel off the mask and it's Jar Jar, at which point everyone would be thrilled to kill him.
That's true. That's true. All right, just a couple of notes I made from the live stream. There wasn't any massive revelations. They talked about playable Wookiees because Jakaro, the Wookiee in the actual Forge Alliance's story, the Wookiee with the droid around his neck, people were speculating maybe now that they've got such a detailed Wookiee, this is all heading towards playable Wookiees. And Charles Boyd basically
great dreaming.
commented, no, not going to happen. They just included a Wookiee because he thought it'd be cool. And he's right. But
It would make some
yeah.
really uncomfortable romance options.
And yeah, no Wookiees speak basic. The only exception being in, well, I guess the Legendarium now, given it's not even canon anymore, the Wookiee with the speech impediment that made him easy to understand.
Right,
Or
but
something like
he still spoke
Yeah.
Wookiee-ish
Yeah.
or whatever it is. It was just that because of a speech impediment, humans could understand what he said more
That's
easily.
right. Actually,
Yeah.
I was just repeating what Charles Point said, but yeah, I mean, it was from the Timothy Zahn novels where that came up.
Yeah, Leia
Yeah,
made a
you're
point
right.
to say, "Why are you so easy to understand? Has Chewie always had a speech impediment?" And he's like, "Well, actually, no. It was me that has the problem."
Right. So there you go. No playable Wookiees. But speaking of canon, something else was asked about whether Star Wars: The Old Republic is canon, given that they, when part of the Disney takeover and the Star Wars story group, and how all of the EU stuff, expanded universe stuff that's out there, is now legend. Uh, what he said was he is constantly getting the stuff they're doing approved by the Star Wars story group. So by that definition, it is canon. So
Cool.
yeah, I mean that's as far as it's probably ever going to go as far as confirming it, but it's all official. But again, so far back in the future, this is BioWare's playground, so they can do more or less what they like. All right. Lastly, in the news, I will mention that I finished reading the new novel by John Jackson Miller called Star Wars: A New Dawn. I mentioned it had been released a couple of weeks ago. This takes place 10 years after Episode 3 and about 5 years before the new animated series Star Wars Rebels. It tells the story of Kanan and Hera, two of the new protagonists that are going to be in Star Wars Rebels. And it's actually a really, really solid read. I don't just read stuff just because it's Star Wars. I actually do require a certain level of quality in the books I actually enjoy, and this one's actually quite solid. It's a full-on adventure story, very much Star Wars, set in a completely new location, a new villain, sort of early days of the Empire stuff, and it actually gets fairly dark and gives a real sense for how the Empire has changed the face of the Republic, and how the people are beginning to think maybe this ain't such a good thing, because it leads into Star Wars Rebels, which is apparently going to be telling the story of how the rebellion against the Empire actually began. So yeah, so I would highly recommend that. There's plenty of reviews out there too if you want a proper review, but I really did enjoy it as a Star Wars novel. And Star Wars Rebels itself will premiere on October 3rd on the Disney Channel with a 1-hour special, and then it will air as a series on Monday nights worldwide on Disney's channels all over the place, and who knows what other avenues it may also be available in. So anyway, not quite SWTOR, but still very cool Star Wars stuff. Anyway, that's the news.
Alrighty, that'll bring us to the Force Feedback, where we read out your tweets and emails. And a note to the chat room, if you have any questions to ask, Red will be gathering them now to ask once we're done with the feedback. And Jason Connell wrote, I was so busy yesterday that I forgot to catch OotiniCast on release day. I apologize. I will listen twice today as penance. Hashtag bad fan.
You don't have to do that, Jay.
I don't think so, yeah. And let's see, Gaddock Teague of the Unnamed SWTOR podcast wrote, one of my first videos was a SWTOR 101 on stats. And he has a link. Hopefully it'll help. And he also has a YouTube video.
That actually is the same thing. That YouTube video he did as part of Corellian Run Radio on their YouTube thing. It's one of his first things in the Star Wars community, or the SWTOR community.
Very nice. At Descartes wrote, I 100% agree. It is a game. Play the way you enjoy, or you will burn out. So I'm not paying my bill with SWTOR.
In response to my, it's just a game, people, when it comes to doing conquest stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Azeros wrote, misconceptions confirmed. I just healed the tank that refused to take guard off of me and put it on the DPS who kept on dying from aggro. Yeah, that happens. And yes, sometimes the healer is the best idea, but a lot of times it's not. Let's see. Les wrote, thank you for clearing up the misconception regarding gear drops and flashpoints. I did Esselis with at MW Downs. No troopers and autocannon dropped. Treek! Yeah, Yes, that'll happen.
I don't know if it's coincidence or if they just kind of left Treek out and aren't properly considering her a companion when it comes to determining the loot. Maybe it was just a coincidence.
Maybe. NDBBM wrote, let's see, in Depths, I assume that's Depths of Manon, it turns out even if you could solo it, you must be in a group for the barrels to function. I guess that's to stop going into the flashpoint and breaking the ones before the first pull, exiting and repeating. Not that I would have tried such a thing.
Very nice. I didn't know that. Interesting. Of course, you can group with someone random who's not even in the instance, and it will just be fine.
Right. Yeah, if you have a guildie who's just going to be on for a while anyway, just ask them to group up, and you're all good to go.
And you can also only reset the phase only every so often, so there are limits to what would be possible with that.
Drink it or wear it, wrote. For me, when I tank, I always turn ads and bosses away from the group, and I expect the DPS to stay behind it, both for the cleave reasons that you mentioned, but also, and more importantly, so that I can see that I am still the target.
Yeah, I do actually do the same thing, knowing fully well I can turn my back, etc., and stand on this. Yeah, it doesn't make any difference. I do that exactly that because it's easy to see if you're pulled off. I mean, I also have the target of target, so I know if the boss is targeting someone else, but when they visually switch away and start shooting someone else, that's a really good giveaway.
All right. Force Chuckle wrote to UTO, Treek, here's your words, Chief. Boom, fuck, only if you want to. Rest, hammer cutter, conquer, place of bad smells endless.
I think he's commenting on my It's a Game rant, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, me too.
Now, I swear I just heard you say a swear word. Like a really bad one.
Nope, just
Blaster
reading it as it's written.
What did I say?
Not you, chill.
Oh.
That's the boom fuck.
Yes, that would be the word.
Yes.
TH.
THUK.
Okay. Okay. You can edit that, Tio, sorry. All I heard was
Chill's more careful than
something
that.
totally different.
Gas Guy. Hey, Gas Guy. He wrote, hi to all the Codex hunters out there. Tio mentioned in his news last week that with the patch 2.10 update, there were some updates to some of the Codex information. I'd like to expand on that to let you know that in addition to the fix and revisions to 4 existing codices and the creation of 2 new ones, we also have 4 new codices from the Ricotta Prime Flashpoint, and an unannounced fix to a long-time bugged codex for the species codex named Voss. To get more specific details on these, please take a look at my latest post on the SWTOR forums in the Story and Lore section with a post titled Bugged/Missing Codex for Republic Players. Any information on obtaining the new Carrick Station or Vulcan Space Dock Codex items would be appreciated. Good luck with your hunting.
And I'll include a link to his post on the official forums in our show notes for your convenience.
All right, Lori M. wrote, a tip for remembering the East, West, and Void Star, if you guys want to use it. The data core, according to the minimap, is always north. Always.
Yeah, I think Kuze responded with that. It's always left or right for me coming out of the door. But yeah, she's right. It is. I'll include the picture that she uses as a visual guide. It is always good to be. East and West is constant, so you should use it if you can sort of work it out.
Right.
I hate it in Void Star. It does nothing but confuse me.
Yeah, exactly. The problem with left and right is that it swaps once you change from offensive to defensive.
Exactly.
But West and East swaps too.
No, it's always West is always West and East is always East.
But when you look at your map, North
when you look at your map, West is always West and East is always East. This is something I run across in war zones all the time.
Right.
Don't give misinformation. Left and right change because of the way you're facing. East and West on the map never change. Ever.
But it's
at all.
backwards.
Even a little bit.
Yeah.
West is still on the left of the map, and East is still on the right of the map.
I do kind of wish that they had flopped the map north to south so that when you were defending, left would be west and right would be east.
That's what I'm saying. From your
Because-
entire life, you're taught east is to the right when facing north.
Yeah.
But when the
Mm.
map flips and you say go east, human interaction or everybody thinks I need to go right. But if
Mhm.
the map is flipped, you're going the wrong way.
Yeah, which
Okay,
is
so-
why. And
So
since
the
you're only
map,
calling
the map doesn't flip. The direction you're facing flips.
right,
If
the thing
you
is
say
you're only
The
left,
calling
map
these,
it's
is still
always
you're really
north.
only calling these things out with urgency when you're on the defensive,
Right.
and yet that's when you're facing south and everything is a little harder.
Exactly. When you're defending, you're facing south. The map is still north, whether or not you're offense or defense, no matter which direction you're facing. But yes, the way that you're facing in relation to maybe it's not gonna. There we go. Okay, so
There
I
we go.
believe Tio in other. Don't worry, I was vamping stuff that you could edit so that I can finish my question.
Scooty-boo-bow.
I
All right.
believe that in other games that you've played, even maybe in WoW, but that there was actually an option where you could have your mini map rotate based off of your orientation, right?
Oh yeah, you could
And that is
actually. I
not
never
the
did that.
case. That's not the case in this game, which is good. But I agree with you, Chill. It's almost like rather than the default being what it is, it should be the opposite of what it is. Because defense is when
Right.
you're panicking and making those calls more than any other.
Yep.
That it would be nicer that you were facing north when you're on defense rather than when you're on offense.
That's right.
What they need is something visually distinctive, so each side is actually identifiable, like the snow and
Right.
grass in Alderaan.
Yeah, snow and grass. So if they had a yellow side and a green side
Exactly.
or something.
You go
Which
red
honestly,
or yellow or whatever. Yeah.
I could tell you immediately what I would love, at least for the spawning zone for Void Star, is there are ships, because that's where you dock your ship as you enter into this to assault it. It would be great if you just had a ship side and a cargo side. Remove one of those ships from
Oh,
that
yeah.
first area, and then you can just say ship or cargo, and it would make it a lot easier for
But
everyone.
that's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
That will work.
Actually, if you said ship or cargo side, I would pretty much know which one you meant anyway.
There is one
Because
ship that's a lot more prominent.
There's
Yeah.
one ship that's like right in the middle of everything, and then the other side it has the crate right in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
So, not a bad idea. All right, at zman_thegamer wrote, I just wanted to say thank you to PJ for teleporting me and all the other knights to the +10 endurance Datacron. This would be the McKeb one. Awesome, man.
As mentioned earlier, yeah.
Yeah.
And Neptune is saying that it doesn't matter where your ship is parked for the group summons to work. So I need to confirm that. I assume he's right because he's obviously been doing it. So
That I
guess
do
we-
know. You can be on a different planet while your ship is docked
Yeah.
somewhere else.
and it works
Maybe.
excellent. Thank you
Yeah.
for clarifying that.
Because there have actually been for those commanders. We'll send people in our guilds to various different locations, and everybody scouts it. As soon as one person sees it, even if you're on another planet, you can get summoned straight in, and you don't need to move the ship to meet them up or anything.
Okay. Juiced Hodemakers wrote, the amount of items, I'm guessing at that pronunciation by the way, the amount of items, DPs, CFs, and so on, needed for unlocking rooms on the guild ship is immense. Is this disparaging for smaller guilds?
Disparaging is probably not the right word, but certainly
Discouraging.
discouraging. Yeah.
Mhm. Discouraging for smaller guilds?
Mm-hmm.
Probably a little, yeah.
At least for now. Remember, even smaller guilds could just farm commanders in terms of getting the encryptions and just not worry about conquest at all. All you're really missing out on is the decos that you get from the collection boxes from the rewards, which are the gathering ones are very cool.
The interesting aspect of it is that at the end of the day, those commanders, and since there are the unnamed ones as well as the named ones, and the named ones drop the purple, so that's immediate, and then it does take 50 of the smaller ones, but there are multiple shards, and the
Yes.
cooldown timers aren't that quick, and there's multiple planets, and depending on which week, there's a whole bunch of different planets.
Well, we should mention there are 7 planets, and they're always up. Doesn't matter if you're invading them or not.
The commanders
Or
are?
they're invadable, yeah.
Oh, I guess that makes sense, right? Because someone could be the owner of the planet, the conqueror of the planet. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so you can go to any planet. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of people are trying to make it look a lot harder than it is. Also, dark projects, I've personally already made, let's see, 17 of them just
Nice.
to use for myself. So, I mean, they're not that hard. And you can be doing old content to get those things all the time. You can take a 4-man group and do an 8-man KP and Nightmare on hard or Nightmare, EV on hard or Nightmare difficulty, and be getting. That's the hardest part. Is those, what are they called? Ricotta energy nodes. That's the hardest part. You can farm that. Everything else drops out of flashpoints and stuff. I mean, you can farm all the mats for the dark projects. It
I
takes
guess
time.
it depends. It depends on your server. On the Harbinger, it makes no sense to make them because it's cheaper to buy them.
Yes, that's absolutely true too.
It's cheaper to buy them and sell the mats. Even if I have the mats to make them, it's cheaper to sell the mats unless you get a crit.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Anything but guaranteed.
Which, by the way, has crit gone up recently? Because I swear I'm critting. I had a string of 7 crits in a row.
So, Bill, your larger sample size indicates not?
No, it is not.
Okay. That's just streaky RNG for you, Red.
And thank goodness it's been on my dark projects. Because I've really only crafted like 9 of them. And all but 1 of them crit.
Damn.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
All right. At Dark Splat wrote, are the random Warzone
Ranked.
Are the ranked Warzone leaderboards broken? I have 2 tunes that I play on Imp side, which is on the board, and a pub, which has a higher rating in the game, isn't.
They seem to be working okay, but I will double check that.
Okay.
As we know last time, sometimes the connection to the database between what is being displayed on leaderboards can break, and it just stops updating, and it usually takes people a while to notice. So, yeah. As far as I did actually check the data, and it did seem to be changing, so it looks like it should be progressing okay, but if you're sure it's wrong, put in a ticket for someone to look at.
Okay. Chong wrote, Uncle Chong is making dinner.
And it is a picture of his character, Uncle Chong, warming himself over a barrel with fire in it. That's just one of the emotes. Can't remember which one. And he's got Treek inside the fire. So, yeah. I can't see that as a bad thing. Roasty wok.
Does it taste
Alright.
like chicken?
Yes, actually. Maybe a bit like koala.
And Genetrix wrote, if you think 2 minute, sorry, not if. Genetrix wrote, you think 2-minute lag is bad? This is what I had to deal with for solid 2 weeks. And he has a screenshot of 218,189 millisecond server lag. So yeah.
I don't know if you could do anything. Yep.
Lag spike.
Boom. God
No
damn
lag
it,
spike.
Google.
Welcome back, Tio. I bet you had something really brilliant to share with us.
Not at all. As you'll discover on the actual audio version.
Is the commander kill also from Genetrix?
No. I don't know who put that in. Is that you, Red?
What?
Or is that a question from the chat room, Red? Or
The
what?
text at the bottom. I did a commander kill, unnamed, didn't get an encryption drop. Someone typed that in.
Yes, I put that there. Sorry, that's the question from the chat room.
Okay.
Okay. And Red, you have a question from the chat room?
Yeah, actually, we just had one question come in about killing an unnamed commander. He did not get his little engineering thing or whatever that dropped off of the
Encryption.
commander. Right, and was wondering why, and we were able to figure out actually within the chat room. I'd remembered this. Only 12 will drop. So if your group is larger than that, and his group was 15, then 3 of you won't in that case. Or what? You can have up to 24, I think. So.
That's correct. They will only give up a maximum of 12. Maximum of 12.
Which, let's be honest, if you've got more than 16, maybe you should split into 2 groups and go after 2 different names so that everybody gets their own.
Indeed. Now, we did also have a question from Brian of the Bad Feeling podcast. It's just a direct message that happened to come in as we were recording. He says, how do you determine which players generated which conquest points? Now, I've been somewhat obsessively going through this list and writing them down, putting them in a spreadsheet so I can report the stats. And just for my own amusement, yes, I do have too much time on my hands. And the way you do it is you, in a little pull-down menu, where I think it defaults to like member note or officer note or last played, one of those, little triangle, click on that, and you can change that to conquest points and then sort by conquest points. Probably talked about this before because I was complaining that it was broken in how it sorts, and they haven't fixed it yet, so it is still broken. It sorts it as a string rather than a number, which has some somewhat odd results, but yeah, that is how you can do it. As long as you're showing offline members, it will show everyone in your guild. Switch the conquest points, and then click on that title to sort on conquest points. And that's how you do it.
That's cool. And also, Carmen says that we're having trouble because we're getting just too darn famous and we're getting hit by a DDoS attack.
If only that was true. If only that was true.
All right. Well, that will bring us to the Sarlacc Digest, where we go over the issues for 1,000 years, or until we run out of time. And this week, we're going to go over some conquests and small guilds and other issues.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up it's something things I'd like to ask you two, and actually, since Bill's here, Bill as well, just because, of course, I'm listening to all the other podcasts, and, well, really only Twitter, because I don't do forums, and I'm bad at Reddit. But there's some persistent questions and opinions that are being put out there, and I'd actually like to know what you guys actually think, because, of course, we reported on conquests as they came out, but we haven't really said really what we think about it. And so I guess let's go with this. Conquests. The first basic question. Do small guilds matter?
In terms of conquests or generally?
For conquests, because there's a lot of people that seem to think that for some reason the whole conquest system should be normalized so that everybody and anybody, no matter how big or small the guild is, has an equal chance. Do you think that's even a legitimate notion? So essentially, if you want to put it another way, is every part of this game designed for every single player and every single guild to have a chance to dominate at it?
Clearly not, and any alternative system that would attempt to normalize it, add a handicap feature or something like that, would be too easily gamed in some way.
Especially with what we've seen with Bolster, right?
Yes. So no matter what they did, it would be gameable by whoever wanted to, had a large enough lump of people. They could split into the smaller guilds if it was somehow balanced so smaller guilds could equally compete or whatever. It could be done. So,
well, and realistically, if you're supposed to be conquering an entire planet, should a guild or a 5-man squad, a really small guild, should they be able or even allowed to succeed at conquering a planet when they have that few people? It's a planet.
Yeah, but just say no one else happened to invade that planet, they could indeed conquer it. So it could happen. So maybe the planet was underpopulated.
At which point you will know that this game is dead.
That's
Some
true.
planets are small, though. I mean, CZ-198 is a moon. It's not even a planet. So why wouldn't a small group be able to conquer it?
Still, 5 people being able to take over a moon. And by the way, that's no moon.
5 really good people could do it. But to get to the meat of your question, basically, yeah. I mean, the conquest system is clearly built for a large number of players cooperating together. That's just how it works, how they've set it up.
Yep.
And end of story. So
I would say it actually helps. I would consider ourselves a small guild. I know we're always hitting close to that 500, but when we look at active accounts, there's a lot of alts in the guild. I really enjoy
A lot.
doing things with other guild members I haven't done things with ever. I think it's actually brought our group closer together, and we've done a lot of group content that we haven't been doing that we have in the past month. I think it's brought us tighter as a guild.
absolutely. Yep.
And
So that's the
been
thing,
a lot more
right?
people on too.
Yeah.
Because that's a big deal too, right? I actually think, I don't know if we've actually made it explicitly clear, but I've never had a chance to really play with you guys. Maybe a tiny itty-bitty bit with a character I transferred, but really, from my experience, your guild is, I would say, smaller, medium-sized, but you might even be smaller-sized. And I've been in every single type of guild. Currently, I would say I'm in one super guild and another that is a large guild. Those are the ones that I'm paying most attention to. But I've even made... Had I not been in those two guilds when Conquest came out, because of the way that I like to play, I would have chosen to go find a larger guild. I've also kind of customized my own playing experience around the fact that I understand that some people, they want to have their 5 to 10 to 15 man guild because that's the people that they know and they play with a lot. I have a small number of people that I play with all the time, but we kind of made that decision that it didn't matter that we were in the same guild or not. If we were all on, we were playing together, no matter the guild, and we would go and play in the guild that let us play the aspect of the game that we wanted to. So if it's a PvP guild, it's a PvP guild. A PvE guild, it's a PvE guild. Heck, I've got a character in a GSF at guild. And to be frank, my mains are now in Conquest guilds that let me play the game that way, hoping to get those number 1 titles. I mean, I'm not just trying to be top 10. I'm trying to be number 1. So I just feel like at some point you have to embrace the fact, as you said, Tio, that this has been designed for a certain subset of players. Just like an operation, you need a certain number of people to be able to compete competitively, at least to be in the top 10. Yeah. And maybe you just need to accept that, and if your guild can't do that, decide whether or not conquests are that important for you. Still go for your personal goals. Those decoration bonuses are great, and you can still achieve something through conquest that way.
You got to wonder, of course, what's the point? Why compete? It's a way, certainly, of getting the rewards you need to expand your flagship, but there are other ways of doing that by farming the commanders, which is certainly doable by any size guild, really, unless you're only a couple of people. And then why do you have a flagship?
No, that's totally true. Actually, if you mention that, you have those avenues, and because of the different focuses that you have from week to week, there probably is an opportunity if you guys only do PvP and there's only 4 of you because that's what you need for your ranked, and that's your whole guild right there. If you go in and do ranked, and it's a week where wins matter, and number of games matter, and you've got the 4 of you, you could probably just play continuously the 4 of you and be on the top 10 for the board, and then get that top 10 for the week, get your bonuses to go and farm those guys on the ground, and get the benefit you want out of it. It just seems like, I feel like, one of the biggest decisions you make in this game is what kind of guild you go into. And the kind of guild you go into is the guild that lets you play the way that you want to. And this is just a different way to play. And if you want to, you find the guild that matches that. If it's more important than being with the guild you're with or whatever. And also, the boards themselves, you were wondering what's the real point? I think those boards themselves actually help to be an in-game advertisement for your guild.
Absolutely.
If you care about being a bigger guild, right?
Yeah.
If you want to be a bigger guild, then you try and get onto that board, because then people see your guild name on there and they see these 2 or 3 other mega guilds, and they've been in those mega guilds and they hate those mega guilds and they don't want to have anything to do with them. But hey, this other guild has shown up on that board and they're trying to create a new environment or whatever. I mean, yeah, you need a certain number of people, but maybe you can find a guild that you actually like that has a lot of people. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a good way to surface your guild name.
True. There's a monetary side of it. I mean, that's obviously my part of the game that I play the most, but I had said this, I did the math. If I have 6 characters hitting my personal conquest goal, for us to finish on the board versus off the board in a given week is between $4 to $5 million or credits. I always say that. If we finish on the board, it's a difference of about 4 million credits in game for me a week, and I can't make that 4 million credits playing any other way. It is the best credit return to make sure that my guild finishes in the top 10.
Do you mean 4 million or 400,000?
4 million. It's about 400,000 per character on the low end. On the higher end, and that's assuming I'm not donating anything though. If I'm donating encryptions, then that takes a hit. If I'm donating my purple mats that I get from my Jawa junk, I take a hit.
Okay.
But if I'm just pure selling that stuff, it is easy between 400,000 and 500,000 credits per character. And if I'm hitting on 8 characters, that's easy, 3.2 to 4 million. Then I go to my 8 on the other side, and it's the same math. So.
Wow.
Now, realistically, actually, Bill, between your 8 characters, how many conquest points do you earn? Week to week, on average, say.
I work one at a time until I hit my goal. I'm not going to say one at a time. I get them all to 35, and then once I got as many to 35 or whatever the goal is, then I focus on one that I think I can get the most points on the fastest. It's varied from week to week. Like I said, last week I was at probably across all 16 of my characters combined on both sides. I was probably at close to 400 to 450,000. The week before, I broke over 1 million. The week before that, I was at about 400,000. The crafting week, I had a big week, of course. But
depends also on the objectives available in terms of just how many points you can generate.
Right. But if he's got 8 and he's getting 35 a week, that's 1.12 million conquest points. If you've got 4 people in your guild that are doing that, you're going to be in the top 10.
Yeah. It's worth emphasizing that there is, as we sort of mentioned earlier, either you place on the top 10 and you get your rewards, the guild rewards. That's the whole point. If you can get on the leaderboard, you will get the rewards.
Right. Number 1 is only a title.
And there is some sort of buff that you get when you're on that particular planet, which, let's be honest, is basically kind of worthless unless you're farming commanders on that planet. And other than that,
will you even be there on the next week?
Exactly. So, and if you don't make it on the leaderboard, you can still do your personal conquest goals and get those rewards. They're just not quite as good.
Right,
so you do get those in addition to the guild.
I want to make sure we said that right. The 35,000 per character times 8 is 280,000 per player if with 8 alts. So
that's a lot of work. Let's be honest. That is non-trivial expenditure of time and resources.
No doubt.
But yeah,
that's why I had a week off.
Well, and we'll get into that. But actually, and that's the other thing. Effectively, can we all agree that if you've got 20 active members that actually want to actively contribute to a conquest in a given week, you're going to be able to get on the top 10. You're not going to be in the top 3. Well, and it does depend if there's only like 3 planets available and you're on the Harbinger.
That's actually
I wanted to bring this up because I do know that the Harbinger is a lot more competitive than pretty much any other server, except I don't know anything about the European servers.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised, but just how many guilds there are and how hard those guys are willing to work. It's been kind of shocking, actually. I also did want to just sort of bring up a general conquest thing. When you're saying, if we'd earned this many points, we earned, like, say, 3 million. If we'd actually gone to this planet over here, which we didn't invade this week, if we'd earned those 3 million points over there, we would have won it. But the point is that you can't actually do that comparison because it's meaningless.
It doesn't translate, right?
The objectives and the bonuses for those objectives are completely different. The bonuses for the objectives are different.
The only way that
therefore-
you can actually make that statement is that if you have all made the choice as individuals to reach that exact number each,
Yeah, I suppose.
then you can make that point. But you might have had to work twice as hard on that other planet because you
Spend
didn't
twice
have
or
half
three
the
times
turns.
as much time.
Absolutely.
And
So
credits, possibly.
Just think about that when you're looking at the other planets' leaderboards and thinking, oh, if only we'd invaded there.
Yeah, planet-to-planet comparisons are idiotic. They
This
just don't
week,
recognize how the system works.
unless you invaded Hoth, there's very few ways to generate points. It's really, really hard. It's all operations based, which means you do an operation and then you're locked out for the week on that character. So unless
Then
you've
you
got a
hop
lot
on
of
and off.
bolts, there are 4 operations you can do, all the 55 ones. So, but again, this requires, you can do it in story mode. I mean, that's fine. But you do still need a certain level of gear and competence, which people may say is not that high, but
All of those are
being in a few
irrelevant.
group finder groups that have wiped, you'll see that this isn't a given.
All of those are irrelevant of difficulty, right? So it's 4 ops at story mode. Yeah.
Oh.
Hello? What was the answer?
Hello?
You're back.
Yes. Yes, Red.
Yes.
The answer, yes.
Okay, right. So basically, still, and I imagine it's repeatable across your legacy, so you could do it on more than one character. But that's 4 operations. And then if you do that twice, that's 8 operations. And then you do that 3 times, that's 12 operations. Like, at some point, yeah, that's repeatable. Okay, and there's probably going to be that you can get your 1 character or 8 characters up to the final boss, and then everybody splits out, and then they can duplicate it on all their alts, which is fine. Which is actually, let's move on to the next part. If it is designed a certain way and meant to give certain aspects of the game an advantage each week, is it an exploit?
By definition, no, because it's the way it's designed.
Right. And, I mean, the way they word it and everything. I understand that you don't like that this week somebody can work with their guild in an organized, strategic fashion in order to set up a system that they can take advantage of the way that it has been implemented and get a lot of points. But that's the way it's designed.
Sadly, yes. And they should change the objectives so that that isn't the case, because all the objectives just require the killing of the final boss, and therefore this exploit can be utilized.
Which, ironically, if you kill the final boss and none of the other bosses, can you go back into that operation and do the first several bosses and then get booted out for the final boss?
No.
Or you're out for the whole operation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so I heard today, or this week, that it may not be able to have multiple conditions on a conquest. So you can't put, you have to kill this boss, this boss, this boss, this boss, this boss, get the conquest. Fine. If the operation has 5, put 5 conquest achievements on the scoreboard for killing each boss individually at a 5th of the value. And
That's
then you
not a
just
bad
gotta be
idea.
there every time.
Actually, honestly, that's actually, yeah, that would work. That would eliminate the issue. Yeah.
Just make it really small. It's fine. And then you just got to go through. And then, yes, fine, a big guild has an advantage. But again, we already covered that. Like, I think, like,
Yeah.
yes, because I do
That's
agree. I don't like it. I think we need to embrace the notion that the word exploit is being abused. People aren't exploiting, they're gaming the system. And I agree. It's not fun when people game the system.
This one's a bit hairy because the way it's set up is so for a perfectly legitimate reason, in that people can join a group while it's in progress, and you kind of need that. So that's fine. And the fact that it all requires an expenditure of time to do anyway, it's sort of, which kind of, yeah. You can generate a lot of points very quickly.
Which is fine, because then they can go with what they've been doing as a default change recently, which is that you do get one massive injection one time on your legacy for doing that weekly.
Mm-hmm.
Or that you can't do it on all of your alts and get that
Or you
weekly, but
can,
doing the
because they're
quest.
repeatable. They're repeatable. The
Right.
objectives
No,
are
but I'm
repeatable
saying
as
you
well.
could have an additional conquest. So do this individual bosses and make those all repeatable, but have it a one-time off for completing the weekly quest.
Sure.
And then that's the one time off, and make that a really big value, so that those people that don't have all the alts and all the guildies in order to coordinate doing it over and over and over and over again, whatever. At least you get that one big shot.
Sure.
Because that leads into my next concern, is that as people complain, and I mentioned on previous shows that BioWare seems to be really responsive to the squeaky wheel, and I think that has the potential to cause a lot of problems in the game. If you only respond to the people that are unhappy about something, then the people that are actually happy and not talking about it because they're playing the game could get pissed off, and it could actually cause a lot of problems. And their trend has been, especially with these repeatable tasks, when people complain, they just stop, they go in, and they say, all right, no longer repeatable. Once on
You've
your
only got
legacy.
one data point here as far as trends go. They changed them once.
I thought it was 2 weeks in a row. I could be mistaken.
No, I'm pretty sure the objectives have only changed the once, where they stopped you being able to use ranked war zones. And I mentioned this was an exploit where people were just
and the
suiciding.
flashpoints for Ilum. And they did it for all of those flashpoints.
I got the impression that was actually an honest mistake. I could be wrong about that. They didn't actually mean for those to be repeatable.
Well, the way that it was phrased in the, this is why we had reported on it. The way they phrased it, the way they implemented it, the way that it executed looked in every way the way they meant it to be. And then I think that they got called out and realized, oh, crap. And I think it's exactly the same thing where, because they can't implement it that you have to kill every individual boss within a flashpoint in order to get the achievement, then they said, well, crap, we can't fix that, so we have to just make it a one-time.
What they really need
Because that was
is,
the only week we've seen for conquests where you have a PvE flashpoint advantage, like PvP. And I feel like they meant that to be the focus that week. But because of that real bad abuse of the way it had been implemented, they had to change it.
Yeah, and I'm personally glad they did, because it was mind-numbing doing that one over and over again.
Isn't that somewhat the cause, or isn't that because the content, the Flashpoint content they're putting in here has never been up-leveled, and it's to the point that it's comedic for a 55 with raid gear to go into them to begin with? If they'd put any effort into that, this wouldn't have been a problem with it being soloable in 5 minutes to begin with.
That's true, but that's kind of a longer term thing. It'd be nice that if in 3.0 they did sort of raise all of the content up to 60, all of the flashpoints.
It would be wonderful, although I think that's a little bit hopeful.
Optimistic?
Yeah. I would agree with you, Bill, except for the fact that they still didn't need to incorporate them as goals at those story modes, or even at all at the hard modes for the older content, if they didn't want to for conquests. They could make that choice.
Yeah.
Because they certainly know that people do that. People brag about it. People make videos about it. They're doing speed runs on soloing this kind of content. It's like,
right.
It's not an unknown factor.
Red, would you say the people who are complaining about the repeatable tasks tend to be people who are, interested in the cause of the smaller guild, essentially? Like they feel that the repeatable tasks just favor the bigger guilds too much?
It's a good question.
Well, it's more people who've got time. It favors them, because none of this was instant. It actually did take time to do. So it's more the time stuff.
Every single video game ever designed, time is to the advantage of anybody playing it.
It's true. It's true.
I think overall, I'd say the repeatable tasks now, when we're still pretty early on in the whole conquest thing, the repeatable tasks do favor the bigger guilds, just because there's a lot of interest right now, and so there's a large percentage of people who are in guilds of all kinds to repeat things, and therefore the larger guilds have a natural advantage with repeatable tasks. over time, though, I'd say too, when the guild ships are decked out and some of those larger guilds are saying, hey, you don't have to push anymore. Thanks for getting the guild ship done. Way to go, guys, and everything sort of settles down. There probably will be some smaller guilds who are still into it and still working for their guild ship, and or just interested in it, period, or want to prove that that they've got what it takes to beat a planet for a week, that sort of thing. And in that case, once you get to that point, the repeatable tasks actually removing them doesn't favor the smaller guild. It would actually hamper them, because if you have nothing but one time only points, if say that ever happened,
Exactly.
that would automatically favor the larger guild, no matter what sort of interest or amount of time people have to put into the game.
That was actually exactly my concern, because I think a lot of people don't realize that when you're saying repeatable, you're actually talking about on legacy. It's not that character. It's straight up legacy. So if you're in a small guild but you've got a lot of alts, you've just gimped your entire guild. Because you can only do it once on one character. Heck, you might have gimped 3 guilds that you really like that you've spread your characters through. You got to pick one.
Right.
I think that some people that are making these complaints and the way that some of these changes are being made is it's actually they're shooting themselves in the foot more than they might realize.
Yeah.
And that we might instead request, point out how people can take advantage of the way that this has been implemented, and then suggest to BioWare. I mean, heck, they wanted our PvP suggestions. Let's give them our conquest suggestions. Like, okay, please don't make this a one-time thing. Here's an idea. Can you do it this way? And then please, BioWare, respond and say, no, because of the way that it's implemented, we can't do that. All right, let's see if we can come up with another way. So that, because I think we're seeing from week to week what their intention is. Because as you just pointed out, Chill, this massive enthusiasm with every single guild in the game is not going to persist at this level indefinitely.
I agree.
For various different reasons, finishing your ship, getting your title, doing this, that, the
3.0
other.
will come out, all that stuff.
Right. It's going to peter out. I think that this is a persistent thing that people will continuously be engaged in, and it might be a reason why you might leave your mega guild that doesn't care anymore because they already got it, most of them already got it, and you go to another guild that's not a mega guild, but they're really dedicated to getting that #1 spot from planet to planet to planet because they're still working on getting those things, so you want to go play with them instead, like it might be a smaller guild you're seeking out at that stage. So changing focus each week still doesn't seem to have struck people, I think, in the community in general. People keep freaking out that there's an exploit. Oh, you can exploit the system this way. Oh, you can exploit it that way. But instead, maybe they might need to think about the fact that this system has been well thought out, and they are trying from week to week to change the focus of the entire gaming community on what their objectives are to play in the game that week. It's not that PvPers have an advantage, it's that if you want to do Conquest this week, PvP is the way to do it.
Sure.
If you don't want to do PvP that week because that's not your thing, then that's fine. Don't do Conquests that week. It's not broken. It's not exploitable. That's not what you're interested in this week.
Let's also remember that BioWare are looking at the data for all of this. They're seeing what everyone is doing. They're looking at which conquest objectives are actually being utilized to generate whatever percentage of points. I'd love to see that data. I'm sure they'll never share it, but it would be fascinating to just see how it all actually
I don't
played
even
out.
need numbers. I just want percentages.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
The numbers, of course, that's dangerous because then you see users and all of that. But, dude, I would love to see percentages, engaged percentages.
Yeah, but they themselves have said that it's early days yet. They're seeing how it plays, and they will adjust accordingly. I mean, who knows what Conquest will be with 3.0, with the expansion. Will it be integrated into the leveling experience? I doubt it, honestly. But that'd be kind of cool if they did. There'll probably be new planets which they'll add into it, new planets to invade. But they may also adjust basically see how it plays out pre 3.0 and then go from there.
Yeah, so actually, I guess the one thing I would like to ask you guys, just point blank, is the way that conquests have been implemented, is the notion of changing focus a bad idea? Or do you think that the community as a whole should just accept it as the point of the conquest exercise and embrace it?
Embrace it, because it is a good idea. It pushes you, like me. It pushed me to do PvP last week, and I actually enjoyed it. And it's just a very personal anecdote, but yes, why not? And each week it'll be different, and so what if your guild may be PvE focused on a PvP week, you can't compete? Oh well, either you try PvP or you just have a break. I mean, what? Why the hell not? I think it's a fantastic thing that they're doing, focusing on different aspects of the game.
I agree. I would go as far to say I don't think they've done enough to force people into different things. Each week there's still too much overlap. I think you need to cut back a little bit on that actually and do a little more. I think that's the whole point, is to bring more fresh blood into PvP. It's to bring more people trying flashpoints that don't normally pug in Group Finder for whatever reason. Maybe it's a bad experience 5 years ago in a different game, and I can tell you I don't have problems when I pug things. I've heard horror stories, I read them. I don't have those problems. Yeah, you get a stick in the mud every once in a while, but it's not, and I think that's what the whole point is to encourage the people to do the things that they're not doing. Take advantage of what material has been built within the game instead of always saying, why isn't there anything new every 30 days?
And it has done a fantastic job of reinvigorating that, doing stuff that we haven't done in a long time.
Right. I would say that, the opposite, are a set of goals of each type of gameplay every week, and it's the same week in and week out. Well, then no guild would be pushed towards one direction or another. No guild would have one an advantage over another, except by size. That would be even more detrimental to the smaller and medium-sized guilds. If you have the same things every week in and week out, then only the larger guilds, I guarantee, would be top of the leaderboard forever, actually. But by changing it inside, from week to week, maybe not right now, the interest is too high, but a couple months out, you have a small PvP guild with just maybe like 10 people who each have like 8 alts, and there's a PvP week, you're going to go to town. You're going to be on that leaderboard easily. It's going to happen. So yeah, and it definitely is. It's an interesting idea to keep things changed up and the focus moving around from one type to another. And I think that was actually a very clever idea of theirs.
Yeah, I agree. The number of people that I've spoken to who, well, especially since I've been playing on a Care Bear server recently, and I've been talking to some people that don't like PvP in any of its forms, and they've actually been saying that they've been playing PvP now, and now they're actually excited about getting their gear set up, and they're going to be committing time to it even outside of the conquests, just because they've discovered that they like. Whereas they only went in because of conquests. They weren't even willing to try until they implemented this into the game, and now they've discovered that actually it is worth trying, and maybe even playing enough that you do get killed a lot, but you figure out something and then realize, oh wait, this is adaptable. It might not be a boss fight, but you can learn what people expect of you, do something unexpected, and start having some fun in PvP.
Yep.
Yeah.
May I say that there are no rewards yet for the old Space Rail missions? So, Space Rail missions are officially the ugly stepchild of the SWTOR game at the moment.
There's
Too
two.
bad.
There's
Gee,
two.
that's a good point.
Space Rails and RP.
Well,
How could you
But no,
people
you're
play
right.
RP?
No, Space Rails is
you
actually a
can
really
easily
good
do
point.
the Space Rails, just like you can do GSF or anything else or any mission. It's all
That's
mission based.
true.
Very easy to
Yeah.
implement.
It would be excellent. It is dedicated time gapped for each character. It
Mhm.
takes, I think I did every single one of them start to finish for the dailies, and it took me like an hour and a half, and I one-shot every single one of them with bonuses because I was just doing that. Like, There's a time limit on it. And you can and that one I would be totally happy with them setting it for the daily, because it doesn't matter what level you are, you can do the dailies all the way down to your original ship. That would be really, really cool. Well, anyway, so I did want to wrap this up with one final thought. This is Conquest Rewards, right? Which is all about guilds. Is using Group Finder for Conquest Rewards antithesis to the concept of guild conquest?
Not if it's a guild group using the group finder for the
Right, exactly, because you can get in a group of 8 in your guild and hit that button anyway. But is it antithetical? If you have a smaller guild, I mean, maybe that's the only way you're going to do it. So.
But then it's not a guild conquest, is it?
It's a mostly guild conquest. If it's half of you will be getting the points for your guild. So
if I go into a random though and I see somebody else random in beside me as a DPS from a guild that I'm competing with, I just vote to kick them. Problem solved.
There you go. I did find it quite ironic. I actually have zero problem with it, but I thought it was quite ironic that if it's a guild conquest, but you've got to find people. It's like, what? Wait. At the same time, I did also want to give a little anecdotal happy moment. My PvP server on the Bastion attacking Alderaan, and I went and I found one of the world bosses, and somebody was already attacking it, and I just decided, what the heck, I'm going to help them, and so I sat down and just started attacking the world boss in the hopes that maybe, even though it was great of me, I might get the conquest points, because you can actually do that with achievements. They invited me to group. I helped them finish it, and we all got our points, and I was like, hey guys, I'm doing a phase transfer real quick. I'll see if it's open on, the second chart.
Yeah. Now, when that happened, did it start out gray, and then as soon as you joined, it became red?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, it did. Which is cool. Yeah, so and I was also, I got to see the loot beam off of it. So even though they were already engaged, I was able to join them and get full credit for it. So
nice.
It's neat.
Let's wrap up with a thought from Colorado J in our chat. At the end of the day, it's up to everyone to do their own gut check, he says, and ask themselves if they want to get sucked into conquests or not. Peer pressure is a bitch. Yeah, that is true. I mean, ultimately, we're all adults. Well, should be, if we're playing this game. And so we should make our own decisions about whether to spend the time or not. But being part of a group and helping the group to succeed, it's a very human activity. Yes, it's peer pressure, but it really does feel good to work together to a goal. And Conquest have provided that opportunity. So if nothing else, they have brought new life to guilds, and it's a good thing.
And more than in the past year, at the end of every day, I'm looking forward to logging into this game. And it's not even entirely about the conquest. The fact that the conquest is there, like I log in and I look like, what could I do for the conquest? But since I'm already logging in, it's like, no, okay, well then what could I do for my character? Maybe I'm not even putting in the conquest points, but it's actually got me looking forward to jumping in and checking it out and then figuring out what I'm doing. Like I'm playing so much more now. And yes, I understand that argument that, conquests shouldn't force you to play a game type that you don't like. We are all adults. It's not forcing us to. You don't have to participate that week. But if it's giving you an incentive to try a part of the game that you haven't even tried yet, go do it. This whole game is really cool. Go discover something new.
All right.
All right. That's a show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utina Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Harbinger server, or in our
Rage
Guild on the M Show. You can email questions and comments about the show to OotiniCast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter. We're on @OotiniCast. I Twitter under my own name @BrandonL Starr, and Tio uses his name @Jason Etheridge. Red Twitter's under @R3DN4, or you can watch him on twitch.tv/R3DN4. By the way, Red, I did catch you the other night. I think you were in like section 7 fighting a robot boss of some sort, droid boss of some sort. I'm not sure if it was the Section 7 Flashpoint. It's
Section-
definitely a droid boss of some sort. And I watched you for a while, but then I had to go.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah, it was fun, though.
Did I have other people I was talking to?
Oh, yeah, there's some chat going on.
Okay.
I
Okay.
don't remember what was said.
Had to
though.
be
It was
over
fun.
the weekend then.
Yeah, I think so. It definitely was over the weekend. And Bill Twitter's under at Bill Lentz, Lentz. Check out our website, OotiniCast.com, which has links to our presence on Facebook. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, and we're also on Stitcher and Spreaker. We record the show live every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Go to OotiniCast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is from Mevio's Music Alley. Check it out at music.mevio.com. That's MEVIO. And thank you to the chat room, and thank you, Red and Bill.
Thanks, guys.
Can't wait for next week.
Yep, and we'll see you next week.
All right, guys, keep recording. Chat room shit there because it's
There they are.
Google Hangout is just crap.
Doing so?
And,
I know. So this is the worst I've seen it ever.
yeah, it's
Just
terrible.
about.
Let's hope Google has their shit together for next week.
Chat room. It looks like I will be on Game Breaker TV tomorrow because of recent, shall we say, drama around certain contributors to the community. I'm going to be letting Larry know in advance that I will not be discussing spoiler content or controversial material, just because I don't want to shed a bad light on OotiniCast or, honestly, myself. I will totally say I actually support BioWare in their decision. I think it was a really hard line they decided to draw in the sand, but I've got no problem with it. And it was about time that they at least let us know what they expect.
Yep.
It's all
And
terms of
so-
service stuff. We agreed to it.
If you're on the other side of things, listen to Dread Pirate Road on ToroCast.
Indeed.
All right. We'll talk to you next week, guys.